We continue in Chapter 2A, Food Safety and Defense, talking about ways in which food becomes contaminated. It can become contaminated during any of many steps that typically occur as it moves from the farm to our dining room tables. During agricultural production, it can happen from harvesting to storage and transport of the raw food, to processing and manufacturing, storage and transport of the processed or manufactured products, to wholesale retail distribution to the food service sector. Certain foods are more likely than others to be associated with foodborne illnesses, such as raw foods originating from animals, foods that contain the products of many animals, such as ground beef, would be more likely to be associated with a foodborne illness than would a roast, because only one animal need to have the pathogen in the ground beef, which is going to be an assortment of several animals, whereas a roast would be from one animal, so the chances would be reduced in a roast versus a piece of ground meat. Other ways in which food can be contaminated is that bacteria are normally present in the intestines of animals, and so thus can contaminate the carcasses at slaughterhouses. Salmonella can infect the ovaries and oviducts of chickens, producing infected eggs. This is called the trans-ovarian route. Salmonella in the environment can also penetrate the eggshell after the egg has been laid, and this is known as the trans-shell route. This is why raw cake batter, raw cookie dough, anything that contains raw eggs should not be tasted, eaten, because you could get salmonella from eating these raw products without them being cooked. Other ways in which food can be contaminated is in fresh water and on land. There's parasitic worms that release their eggs into the environment where they may be picked up by other animals. The eggs will hatch into larvae inside the animals, and the larva can survive even after the animal has been killed for food. Fresh fruits and vegetables can become contaminated with bacteria, viruses, or protozoan parasites when they are irrigated or washed with water containing the waste of animals or humans. E. coli strain 0157H7 is an example of this. Contaminated water can also introduce pathogens to produce. Washing the produce with clean water may not completely eliminate contamination. It may contain residues of pesticides or other chemicals that might have been used on the produce. The food also could be contaminated during processing and preparation. Once food has been contaminated, handling of it becomes critical. Large numbers of bacteria are usually required to cause foodborne illnesses. And because bacteria produce extremely rapidly, particularly under warm, moist conditions, the way that we combat contamination is important. Methods for combating food contamination includes prompt refrigeration, includes acidic conditions such as pickling of food, or curing food such as using high levels of salt or sugar, or drying such as in fruits and meats. Parasites, bacteria, and viruses are killed by heat, with a few exceptions. Toxins produced by bacteria vary in whether or not they're killed by heat. Prions are not destroyed by heat alone, but are inactivated by heat and high pressure, such as a pressure cooker. And prions are misfolded proteins. Our food supply is global. Regulation of food safety and tracking of foodborne illnesses is extremely challenging, and there are several agencies that monitor, regulate, and investigate food safety. There's an international oversight of the WHO organization, or the World Health Organization. It's a United Nations agency challenged with protecting public health. It coordinates international efforts to effectively monitor and respond to outbreaks of foodborne illness. It implements international health regulations relating to travelers and the import and export of contaminated food. Federal oversight is by the FDA, or the Food and Drug Administration, the ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, the Food Safety and Inspection Services, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The Food and Drug Administration is responsible for the safety of approximately 80% of our food supply. It includes all domestic and imported food except meat and poultry, and oversees eggs within the shell, bottled water, and even wines with less than 7% alcohol. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosive oversees all alcoholic beverages not covered by the FDA. The Food Safety and Inspection Service oversees domestic and imported meat and poultry, including products that contain meat or poultry, and processed egg products. The Environmental Protection Agency regulates the use of pesticides in agriculture, as well as establishing standards for safe public drinking. The Centers for Disease Control plays a critical role in keeping food safe by working with state and local health officials to monitor the occurrence of foodborne illnesses. The CDC develops methods to prevent foodborne illnesses and continually assesses the effectiveness of its prevention efforts. It effectively oversees all foods. Food safety prevents the unintentional contamination of food, and food defense prevents the deliberate contamination of food, and this is overseen by the Department of Homeland Security. Bioterrorism is the term used to describe biological agents such as bacteria and their toxins, viruses, or parasites that are intended to intimidate or attack societies and/or governments. The Center for Disease Control classifies biological agents into 3 separate categories. Category A is the highest priority and is easily disseminated or transferred. Category B is moderately easy to disseminate or transfer. And Category C includes emergent pathogens. Regardless of whether a risk is intentional or unintentional, systems are in place to limit our exposure to contaminated food or water. We each should take steps to ensure that the food we consume is as safe as possible, along with these agencies charged with looking out for us on our behalf. We should use a common sense approach to be aware to practice food safety from the moment we select food, prepare it, and store it. Food selection: when we're selecting any food, we want to look by the sell-by dates and carefully examine packaging for any damage or tampering. Limit bacterial growth by refrigeration. We want to look within our grocery store where we buy our food to ensure that the temperatures in the store displays are correct, that we rapidly transport and cool food. If we buy it at the grocery store, we want to get it home and refrigerate it. And we want to keep consistently cold temperatures in our home refrigerators. Selecting meat and poultry, we want to always bag them separately from other items, especially those that we will be eating raw, such as our produce. So we always want to keep our meat products away, packaged up separately. We should put them in a grocery sack separately within our basket and not allow them to touch anything else. Even our canned goods, our bread loaf, because bacteria could be transferred. We want to wash our hands after touching the packaging. It'd be advisable to carry antibacterial lotion that we can use within our handbags or whatever. Larger cuts of meat with less surface area will have less bacteria on their surface. This goes back to the roast versus the hamburger meat. Selecting seafood, you want to always buy it fresh and also know your source. You would need to be aware of the firmness, the color, the odor are important. Never buy anything that smells fishy, and avoid fish that has a faint bleach odor. Selecting produce, we want to always wash all produce, even the ready-to-eat pre-bagged produce. Stay informed about costs and benefits that might occur in our neighborhood of buying organically grown fruits and vegetables versus conventionally grown produce. We're asked to make conscious decisions about personal tolerance for food safety and the future of foods and the environment. At home, we need to employ good safety practices, cleanliness, separation, cooking, and